Hey everybody, it's the Baseline Show once again on Wednesday at noon. But this is once a month our special event,
Everybody.
which is wait, I've got feedback here.
I don't.
Oh, there, that wasn't me. It was somebody else. Yeah, this is our special General Assembly meeting of the Baseline Protocol community, and my work is done here. Signing into Sonal Patel, who's going to take us through the agenda.
All right, so we do have a full agenda today. As usual, we'll have our standards updates, outreach team updates, sponsorship, core devs, TSC, and then some company and product related updates. And then if we have time at the end, we'll go through some of the Ask Me Anything questions that were submitted by the community. And with that, I will first hand over to Andreas Freund for the standards updates. Sorry, I didn't realize Andreas is not here yet. I will make sure he has the link to this updated call. And I will start with Mark Hattel, then we'll do some outreach updates.
Hey, Mark, I think you're muted still.
Normally, I'm never muted, but anyhow. So, hello everybody. Mark Hattel, outreach team here. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes that we've had going on. Really, while so much other stuff has been kind of moving forward. You'll notice, within the Baseline Slack for all of those that have been paying attention, we've done a lot of grooming, just so that it's flows a lot easier. We don't have a lot of really kind of moribund channels out there. And so we really wanted to truncate this, in a manner that it's going to speak directly to, the intent of whatever the content is. And you'll see a lot of cross-pollination across different little channels in there. So, go ahead and definitely take a look at it. We welcome any feedback. If anybody likes it, if anybody hates it, let us know. So, first up right now, in just over 2 weeks right now, we have Amster-based 2022 at DevConnect, where we are going to have, probably one of our biggest presents that we have had, really post-pandemic in an in-person event. So, by all means, sign up, follow us virtually, definitely leverage your networks, like it on LinkedIn and Twitter, and so forth. So, and to that end, we're really starting to put together a list of these events that we want to go out and really get the message out. And we are not really paying as our major focus of attention to blockchain events. We want to look for infosec, data sharing, because really our value proposition extends so much farther beyond just baseline. So to that end, we're also putting together a formal process for packaging the work, so that everything that's being done can be disseminated across everyone. Everybody can take a look at it, play with it, tear it apart, put it back together. Let us know how it works, where it might break. You might come up with something that our dev team hasn't thought about. So and at the same time, we have the perpetual grooming process, going through our docs in the repo, just so that if you have someone who's a casual observer here, they could come in and really, find a nice, tidy, experience to finding out what they need. So that's really everything that we have right now for outreach. Keep an eye on the channel, because there's so much going on, and it's, we have regular drops almost every couple of days.
All right, thank you. And over to Mark R. You have some updates on our website metrics that we now have access to.
Yeah, Mark Rimsey here. I'm part of the core devs team and the outreach team. And over the last couple of months, the website has been revamped. So huge shout out to Boy for doing that. And on top of that, we've now set up metrics for the website. So we have some exciting stats to share that shows the huge benefits we've received in the outreach team from the new website that we have. And we've received in the last 6 weeks over 1,700 unique page views in the new revamped website. And on top of that, we've seen an influx of 1,000 new visitors to our website, which is very exciting. And on top of this, we have seen 200 people visit the new Amster-based page. So we're very excited about all these new people who are going to be coming to the event. And we also have seen 200 people visit the new Get Baselined page. So we're very excited to grow the people who are interested in growing the companies who are trying to get baselined.
Thank
And
you.
I'll pass it back over to Sonal.
Thank you. So yeah, the Get Baseline edition was very exciting because now the sponsor companies who offer services and products can be listed there, and 200 views on that side is just the start. We're really excited to have companies interested in getting baseline being directly connected with those who can provide the services. And with that, I'll also cover some Amster-based updates from the outreach team. So our in-person event is final. We are officially attending DevConnect in 2 weeks from today. And the schedule will include networking, coffee and snacks, as well as speakers, which are the sponsor companies. So we'll have Mesh presenting the basics, the baseline architecture simplified for everyone. We'll have Mover presenting juicy Web3 stuff. And then we have companies like Unibright, ConCircle, and Blocks Move who are still releasing their titles for their speaker slots. So keep an eye out for that. And on 4/20, so 2 weeks from now, we will have the baseline show live streamed from the event. So it'll be very exciting to see our community members together. We'll see most people on this call in one place, as well as all the new members who are joining that they've met. So we have 90 in-person signups, which is awesome. We're almost nearing the capacity of the venue with signups from about 61 different titles of positions. So ranging from C-suite execs to developers, architects, students, evangelists. We have a few medical professionals, all sorts of people. It's very exciting, from about 67 different companies in the Web3 space, DAOs, different protocols, Chainlink, as well as major companies like SAP, ServiceNow, and others. So that's super exciting that we'll have all of our community members together in one place. And then for those of us who can't make it, the event will be live streamed, so we can still tune into the speakers and be part of the event. And also on that note, we have 1 to 2 sponsorship slots open. So if you would like to join us in 2 weeks in Amsterdam and fill up a speaker slot, as well as be on our lineup, please reach out. We do have a few companies inquiring, and we want to get that finalized soon. And on the topic of sponsorship, since the last General Assembly, we have had Envision officially join as a baseline sponsor. So very excited to have Envision officially in. They've been around for a while and working on very valuable efforts since the inception of baseline. So excited to see how they further contribute and get companies baselined. And with that, I will hand over to Yoav for core dev updates. You are muted.
I am talking on mute. Thank you, Sonal. So for some core dev updates, we'll start with the Amster-based Blip Bounty Hunt. So the Blip Bounty Hunt is kind of the online part of the Amster-based event that we're doing. This is a dev-focused event. So it began March 30th, and it's going to run its way through to May 11th, which is a total of 6 weeks, 3 weeks before the in-person event and 3 weeks after. So the initial round of these blips have been released in kind of what we're calling the first wave. So we expect more waves to be dropped as the event goes on to kind of keep new exciting ideas being added throughout. The blip format that we're using is going to be the standard format that is our kind of classic procedure. So we've created a condensed grant application that participants who are taking part in this event can use to take any blip that we have created and propose the grant that they think is appropriate based on the scope of work that they are trying to accomplish. And as always, the TSC will go through and vote and approve any grants that are being funded. All blips are posted that we've posted are suggested ideas. They're not hard rules. They're not anything that you have to strictly adhere to. They're just kind of ideas that we're throwing out for anyone to take and interpret however they like. And with that, they can then form, like I was saying, whatever grant they believe around the idea that they want to take it through, and then let the TSC vote on it. So we still have a form available to submit new blip ideas. And throughout the duration of this event, all of the submissions for this form will be monitored, and we'll be sure to vet anything that comes through, and anything that we think has good potential will be added in future waves for blips to come. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to some blip work updates that are kind of aside from the Amster-based blips. So we're running blip 11, which is the repo cleanup blip, which is underway and is currently being worked on. The goal of this blip is for some overall cleanup and maintenance of the repo. This is to solve some redundancies, inaccuracies, and some readability issues that we've seen within the repos. Especially currently, the focus is in the Gitbook docs, where we've seen a lot of these problems popping up. So there is work being done to clean up all of that and consolidate. Also, the blip 6 monolithic test suite work is currently being wrapped up. This work will transition into the simple reference implementation, which is the SRI that is noted on the roadmap. And our last core dev meeting, we covered several of the new blip ideas that we have presented for the bounty hunt. So with input from several community members, the ideas were discussed and kind of further fleshed out. I'll be posting clips of that call to each appropriate blip, so that anybody who wants to work on that blip can kind of see the thought process that other community members had when they considered the blip. And yeah, we're just very excited to see what the community can come up with these ideas. Moving on to the roadmap. So like I had touched on in the blips, the major item on the roadmap is the SRI, which is the simple reference implementation. So the SRI, the idea is to be the most basic and most easy to digest implementation of the baseline protocol, while still adhering to all of its standards. Something that can be easily and quickly displayed and can be kind of effectively shown to anyone with any technical or non-technical background, and give an easy understanding of what baseline is accomplishing, what we're really doing here. The
I got a
roadmap.
question
Yeah.
on that, although I'm not following Q protocol here. So.
No worries.
Will you allow it, Sonal?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about on the simple reference implementation? I'm all for it, right? Simple is good, and I'll digress by saying we just hired an amazing senior engineer onto our team, Terrence Leonard, and the first thing he told me was that he has been a fan of baseline and I don't usually plug things, but he did say it. He was a fan of Unibright for years. Like for 2 years, he's been following the community. He's never been on the show. He's never been in the GMs, but he's had other jobs. But it was just a great example of how I see examples of this all the time, where people who we've never met, I've never talked to, saying, "Oh my God, I'm really into baseline." So it really is kind of like out there in the world. That was just a really nice thing, and I hope Terrence doesn't mind me calling him out on that. But so simple is great. It allows people to do more things. But how do we do that in such a way that, if you're going to do a reference implementation, are you going to use Mongo? Because now you're featuring Mongo. Are you going to use MQ, or are you going to use Kafka, or are you going to use Nats? Then you're featuring those things. So whatever you do, if you're doing an actual reference implementation, you're featuring something. So what are your thoughts about that? Or is there a way to just build the kind of the stubbed out framework and say, plug whatever you want in here, plug whatever you want in here? What's the method for that?
And
I bet
Andreas,
has some thoughts
yep.
about that.
He's in the queue. Go ahead, Andreas.
As long as it's open source, no one cares. Doesn't matter whether you feature it or not. It doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't. It needs to work. I need to be able to plug it off, do npm install, run it. That's a reference implementation. Everything else is vaporware.
I'm not sure I understand. I mean, clearly there's Mongo's open source, sort of. Yeah, it actually is. They've run through different kinds of open source regimes, but they're heroes in the open source community. And I mean, I would say no. I wouldn't say no to a Mongo implementation, for sure. It'd be awesome. In fact, we
Not a Mongo
had a meeting
implementation.
with them the other day, and where we pitched them on being a real member of the community out front. But Postgres is also open source. So which one do you choose is the question.
Doesn't matter. It's like pick one. It's like whatever you want. It's a reference implementation. There can be multiple reference implementation. They can pick, right? So it's like it doesn't matter.
So,
pick
yeah,
one.
you're answering my question. Is that we have to pick that? If it sounds like we have to, as a community, decide on which things we're going to use in that simple reference implementation, unless the simple reference implementation is going to be pluggable.
No, there's whoever builds the simple reference implementation is gonna make those decisions, and then they publish it out as open source. And if you like it, you use it. If you don't like it, tough call.
I think that we'll take it offline, but I think that is actually there's a concern I have as one of the chairs is not stumbling into making choices for the community about what is featured that other community members might not like.
Well, it's pluggable because it needs to comply to the APIs in the standard. So it's like I completely do not understand it. Sorry.
It's okay.
I have it's like I don't understand that concern because it's pluggable. You can I mean pluggable, you mean the components in the reference implementation?
Yeah, I can imagine like, you've got a CLI and it says, okay, which database do you want to use? Which thing do you want to use? And then it lets you wire those things up.
If you show me
a
reference implementation of any standard that does that, then show me that. I'm not aware of a single one that does that.
I'm aware of very few standards that actually go ahead and put reference implementations into their GitHub repos. So we're off the reservation on that to begin with. So the question, should the simple reference implementation project be more about a simple set of tools for making a reference implementation? Could we go up a level? In other words, don't do a reference implementation for them. Do a thing that will make it super easy for them to do their own. And I'll leave it at that. I'll stand down. This is not, this is a review forum, so we can bring that up. But I feel like making trouble today, so I just did.
It's like, let's discuss that in the TSC. This is the right. That's the right forum.
Meeting, yeah.
Or maintainers meeting. It's like my point, and then I shut up, is whoever builds the SRI, it's their call.
Well, yes, anybody can build a reference implementation. We have, Provide built one. Sam and the team started on another one, BRI2. You can build any number that you like. But if we're going to say this is the canonical, simple reference implementation of the standards community, then we have to be mindful about what choices we're making. And I rest on that. Thank you. So no, Yoav, I hand it back.
All right, no worries. And maybe I have something, my next point might kind of touch on what you were asking for a little bit there. So the roadmap starts with the SRI, right? Which is supposed to just be an implementation that we can just show off in a really quick, easy manner. But there are several components that are going to run concurrently with the SRI work. So hello world chunks, educational elements, and especially different SDKs. And maybe the SDKs are kind of more of what you're asking, just a set of tools that developers can use to then make whatever, they would imagine an SRI would look like. And then maybe we just end up with several different, ways to go about it that you can kind of pick and choose from. So with that in mind, we are hoping that teams within the community can form to work on those things, the SDK, Hello World chunk, and different educational components. So if there are any members of the community looking to contribute, this would be an excellent way to jump in. And as always, there is opportunities to submit a grant for this work.
Awesome.
And
Thank
that
you.
wraps up my section. Yeah. Thank you, Sonal.
Thank you. And I'm going to continuously post more information about the blips that were submitted as part of the bounty hunt. The core devs meeting was really fun on Monday. We were discussing some of the examples like the poker game or a mafia style game where the component for this blip could be having like a double agent where you can't know that they have two identities, and as well as some more business focused needs. So please take a look at our blip repo and let us know if you're interested in any of those items.
So is that to kind of introduce Byzantine fault tolerance as a concept? The poker game? To know if you have a, honest node or what?
I don't know anything about poker, but someone else can answer that.
No, it's as long as you're trying to remove the requirement of having any honest party.
Okay.
Right. So Byzantine fault tolerance requires a minimum quorum of honest. And here you're trying to remove the that requirement because if someone cheats, the proof fails. So that's sort of like the thing, and it's think of it more of akin to Mina, which is wants to build a new blockchain that is solely built on zero knowledge proofs, and where the validators just validate proofs and do nothing else.
Cool. Okay. Just one thing that jumped out at me.
Cool. Thanks for asking. And now, John or Samrat, as the TSC co-chairs, do you have any updates from the TSC to share?
Samrat, you want to go first? Yeah, I'll go. I'll do it. We had a meeting last week. We'll have another one next week. On the last one, we reviewed the Amster-based plan and approved it. So we have an official approval of the plan, which was important, so that it didn't just go off and do it. And we are now into rigorous management of the attendance. It's been 2 years coming. The head of our PGB, the venerable Dan Burnett, I remember when we were starting this whole thing 2 years ago, cautioned me that if you don't manage attendance and you don't have consequences for attendance, that you will run amok. And so there are consequences on the PGB. There are consequences on the overall EEA. He's pretty rigorous about that, and we've been trying. We wanted to kind of work our way up to that, and I think we're mature enough now that we can do that. So the rules are if you go to baseline-protocol and you go into our docs, there's a page in our docs that'll show you the governance policies. And actually, we're a little more lenient than the actual governance policy, which says two misses in a row and 3 in a season. We're doing 3 misses in a row and 5 in a season is the sort of spoken agreement right now. So we will be starting to enforce that. And there's only a couple of folks that are sort of on the edge, and one that's over the line. So there's a procedure for bringing that up and moving for either removal, or there's another number of other remedies. So we will be going into that in the next TSC meeting. that won't be exactly the most fun conversation we've ever had. But there's also a very well-worn, rigorous procedure for appeals and redress in a variety of ways. So I'll just leave it at that. I think Samrat is sending notes to the folks that are, either on the edge or over the line with that now. And by the way, there's also a rule set for maintainers. You can be a core dev, show up whenever you like. But if you have control over merging to main, you got to show up to the core devs meetings. Otherwise, you're not familiar enough with what's going on with the community to really knowledgeably merge anything. So we encourage on the TSC, we encourage the maintainer team on the core devs meetings on Mondays to be as rigorous going forward on that. And it's pretty easy to just say, okay, well, until you reestablish yourself, you got to be taken off the maintainer list. In other words, you can't merge. You can still contribute code, you can still be involved, you just can't merge.
Awesome. Thank you for the update. I'm glad to know that the TSC is hammering down on the governance. All right. And now we're going to shift into some company, product, or other community related updates. So first I will hand over to Tom Lyons for an update from the EEA side.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here. I just have a quick update from the EEA and kind of a request to the community. We at the EEA are working on a Ethereum business readiness report. The idea of which is to survey the community on the requirements, use cases, and business readiness of the Ethereum ecosystem writ large. So that includes baseline. And we're looking to identify who's building on Ethereum, what requirements builders have, and challenges and barriers to using Ethereum and related technologies for building actual business stuff. And I'm going to post the link to the survey in the chat. You should see it now. And I'm happy for anybody who has some experience, who has a case study, because I'm chasing case studies as well, or who can send this around to their contacts or on their social. We're trying to get as many responses as we can because we're really trying to build a picture or start building a picture of who's building on Ethereum. So that's just what I wanted to advertise here.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions from the group for Tom? All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
And I will now hand over to Stefan for some base ledger updates.
Yes, thank you. So now, yeah, base ledger is live. Last Tuesday, base ledger went live. So now we have a production ready blockchain for enterprise synchronization and using all the nice baseline patterns and concepts that we have been discussing in the last 2 years. So it was some kind of a soft launch until the official launch date. So we decided for an official launch date last Tuesday. But of course, the validators ramped up until to that date already. Some numbers on the current state. We have 13 active validators as of now, Consensus Mesh being the latest addition. Yeah, we already
well done,
have...
Keith, Yov, and Mark.
Yes, nice work, guys. And we have 12 million UBT staked for validators already. We didn't expect that numbers to grow that quickly, to be honest. So that's already more than 8% of the total supply. That's yeah, quite impressive. And until now, we only have some manual setup replicating nodes besides all the validators. The docs for that will be online soon. So only with validators and with a handful of manual setup replicating nodes, we already have around 11,000 UBT rewards coming from these first replicators in the first week, not counting the additional 100K UBT that we donated from Unibright for the first proxy staking pool. So yeah, as I said, our hope to kick off this enterprise blockchain out of a healthy and well-distributed utility token ecosystem seems to play out very well. And of course, I have to admit, this makes me quite proud as one of the Unibright founders, of course. Yeah, and now there are, of course, the exciting things to come. We just, so for anybody that's interested, wants to look in the details, perhaps I should mention the Unibright.io website is a good place to start and read the latest blog posts about that. And of course, baseledger.net if you want to take a look at the Explorer with the transactions and everything for yourself. And yeah, there have been some work around that on how to actually use baseline, not only talking about reference implementations, but the actual production ready use. We just finished and released a study that we've been working on for, I think, 8 months together with the European Investment Fund, where we discuss, where we go through all the baseline concepts one by one, and we evaluate them against their benefit to a specific European Investment Fund use case of a lending platform. I would be happy to somehow perhaps have the guys from the European Investment Fund invited into a baseline show, perhaps later in April or after Amster-based. I will definitely support that. They can explain the use case way better than I can. Yeah, I mean, apart from that, Baseledger is live. The proxy to connect to it, for example, from SAP or other ERPs, is open source. So currently, there's no need for anybody, because we got the questions, when will the next client be onboarded and what's the name of the next client? I mean, that's one of the key ideas of Baseline, as we understood it, that clients should not have to tell or call John Walpert or Stefan Schmidt or Jack Wearing to ask them if they are allowed to baseline and use, for example, Baseledger or any other implementation.
Hey, hold on there, man. I make a lot of ETH by people calling and asking if they're allowed to use baseline. That's not cool. Yeah. You're wrecking my jam there.
I got that. Yours is the only email that I forward anyway, so you will notice that in your inbox, I'm very sure. No, I mean, that's the good thing about, for example, Baseledger or Baseline as an ecosystem. So everybody can use it, and the only thing that we can tell about is, of course, the clients that we have in the pipeline. Like one of our SPO clients was actually the first user. I know that Concircle has a lot in the pipeline, and yeah, I think personally it's good that we do not have to align anymore with PR teams of clients on POC-ish projects that they have to join a baseline show or to somehow co-work on a blog post, and they perhaps don't want to use the word crypto. So we will have these POCs, and we'll have these, let's call them stage-related projects that really love to talk about that in public. But we are also working with a lot of platforms and, for example, close with the SAP team together on using Baseledger natively in SAP. So for me, this will be the actual accelerator if these platforms use baseline concepts, or in our case, hopefully use Baseledger, and they should not have the obligation to tell us beforehand so that we can make fancy blog posts about it.
I love fancy blog posts.
Yeah, we can do them, but it should not be mandatory. Like,
of course.
Yeah. So what's always easy to onboard is the projects that we are directly involved, or that, I don't know, all the council members are involved with their companies. Of course, we can easily talk about them. So from Unified side, perhaps the latest thing that I want to update, Baseledger related, we updated our Frequency DeFi framework with integration to media production systems, so Adobe and Steinberg and Pro Tools and so on. And we did this for a joint venture that we are participating in, the Metalverse, so NFT related stuff with AI generated music, and yeah, different topic. It's not a core, let's call it, baseline use case, but of course, when we are involved, we are always searching for spots where baseline patterns could be applied and bring some benefit to the actual users of the system. And in this case, there are some record companies involved, and following our proposal, we agreed on that we sync all the streaming and revenue protocols of, say, Spotify or Amazon Music that are connected to that platform, that we baseline them via Baseledger. So this is not a core use case of that platform, but it's a nice extension in regards to creating trust between the parties involved when they get their streaming revenue sheet monthly from Spotify, and they have some additional source of trust and truth to see how many streams actually came from that platform into Spotify, for example. So these kind of use cases we will always actively support, that they somehow make use of Baseline, because if these platforms understand what Baseline brings, then this will be the better accelerator than finding single clients, which are always welcome, of course. But yeah, we at Unibright are looking for the platforms to be onboarded. Yeah, so
And
far,
Stefan,
so
is there a browser for like watching base ledger statistics, like usage statistics going up and down?
Yeah, so the starting point would always be baseledger.net or explorer.baseledger.net.
Okay.
Where you can
Thank
see
you.
the latest blocks, the validator set, the transactions, like you would expect.
That's really great. I mean, because it's so nice to be able to have transparent truth on things. I get so tired of the scuttlebutt and the rumors and things like that. So as you say, shouldn't be fancy blog posts promising things. It should be real numbers. Good for you.
I don't know if there were any questions on the Q&A side of things.
Yes. Any questions from our live audience now? And if not, I have a couple from our AMA.
Mhm.
All right. Feel free to ping in the chat if you have a question here. So 2 questions for you, Stefan, from the chat is, the EIF news is great. Any idea of how many transactions they would be baselining through their many ventures, so we could have some context?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, this it's clearly framed as a feasibility study. So if you ever worked at or for an institution, you will get, no pun intended, but perhaps a new understanding of what working slowly means. And I mean this in a good sense, because I mean, they started with a workshop on looking into the baseline concept itself. They attended various of these office hours. Then they booked a workshop with Unibright where we explained the concepts a little bit closer, like already over a year ago. And now this feasibility study is the result of that first phase. Any numbers related to how many clients or which amount of euros go over this platform nowadays, I also do not know. It's not my part to look into the EIF details. But as I said, it would be a great addition to the show, or perhaps to an interview, to have Robin or Ewan explaining themselves a little bit about the use cases. And then we could also derive some quantities on that. But the study itself is a feasibility study and is more on the quality level than on the quantity level.
Okay, thank you. And next question is long, so bear with me. Congrats, Unibright, on your base ledger launch. There's been a lot of attention on interoperability recently, so I'm curious about the route you took. UBT is an ERC20 token on Ethereum, and base ledger is a chain built on the Cosmos SDK. When you lock UBT in a contract on Ethereum, that translates to validation power on base ledger chain. Network activity on base ledger also results in staking rewards back on Ethereum. There's obviously some back and forth between these 2 chains. How are these cross-chain communications managed?
Wow, yeah, that was more an explanation than a question, actually. I mean, everything that is said in that question is correct. So we decided not to create like a counterpart of our ERC20 token in UBT, but rather a bridge between Ethereum and the Cosmos-based base ledger network. It's all in GitHub. It's all viewable under github.com/baseledger. And then we have, just looking it up, one repo that's called base ledger contracts. So there you can see the bridging contract that lives in Ethereum, where all the users have to send their UBT to use base ledger, and where also the validator set is updated. And in GitHub.com base ledger plateau, the actual implementation of the network, there is a part that is a Cosmos called Cosmos Bridge. And this is the bridging part, listening to events on Ethereum and then getting consensus on all validators in base ledger and reflect the changes of any UBT transfers inside base ledger. So I think it's not, from the approach, of course, it's not that we invented it, but on the Cosmos side of things, it's I think the first bridge that fully works in that way, and that's why we also contributed it to the Cosmos open source side of things.
Awesome. Thanks for answering. Any last questions for Stefan before we move on? All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. And now using the last chunk of time for some other AMA questions. One was, what are the requirements to be a core dev? So I'll just touch on that. There are no requirements. Anybody interested in joining with technical or functional skills are always welcome to join our core devs group. That's what makes our group so unique, is we have such a wide range of backgrounds that are able to form groups and tackle these blips or other ideas and work in the community. So the only requirement is having an interest in the baseline protocol and joining the work. So please do if you're interested. Another question. So Jack Leahy, I'll hand it to you, is will companies like Provide that offer services be offering baseline as a service, essentially acting as authorized resellers?
I can
Yes,
kind of
Ronald,
answer that
could
one. Question does not compute, right? How do you resell a standards body? Right? You just build your stuff. We're just trying to help you get a pattern that, you know, makes sense, and that you know, and our job is to make sure everybody's following the pattern. So it's not, again, I think we overdid it with a good name like Baseline. Or I'm sorry, were they asking for base ledger or baseline?
Baseline. But
Yeah, so
I think they were.
That's my answer is correct. If it's any other product line, then that's a different conversation.
And in that regard, you know, there's that interchangeability in the term of synchronization and baselining. You know, we've seen that be used interchangeably in the community before. And so in that regard, synchronization as a service, yes, we do envision organizations like SAP, ServiceNow, Splunk, et cetera, to be those type of systems that will be used out of the box within Shuttle, then provide Shuttle for that synchronization as a service, or, you know, as it was quoted, baseline as a service, even though, you know, we tend to focus on, you know, the terminology with synchronization.
So there's lots of products out there. Jack just mentioned a bunch of them. Stefan just described their offering. There are, yeah, and as you say, SAP. I mean, if you want to be a reseller, SAP has a really good reseller program. And my advice is go to their reseller program, say you want to be a reseller, and tell them that you really, really want to be a reseller on the baseline pattern, and that you know, how will they support you on that? And
Or I'll do you
that will drive
better.
a pretty interesting conversation. So that's the way I
Or
would
I'll do
it.
you better. And as consulting organizations and resellers are looking to deliver solutions around SAP, they can reach out to Provide, and right out of the box within Provide Shuttle, we can enable as a connector an SAP related connector built by any type of reseller or integrator in that regard, such as like an Accenture or a number of different organizations that we're talking about that are coming to look to build connectors natively within Shuttle. And so,
or you use
for that. So that's,
or you use the existing already SAP certified connectors that are already there. Also a good choice. Of course, there will be perhaps new connectors in the future, but there are already some of them, like our connector, which is already certified and online. So always the easiest path to go directly with SAP, I guess.
Our connector being what is that exactly?
Guys, we're this isn't an ad show for different options.
I was just confirming, our connector being what exactly?
All right, it's okay. Thanks for answering those questions, and thank you, community members, for sending them in.
I like that though. I got to say, you know what? A standards body with a little bit of rumble between different combatants. That's a healthy standards body. So,
especially a question being addressed to Provide and being answered by others.
All right. So with that, we'll wrap up our AMA. Any other updates from the group here on just different community work or anything happening?
I think I joined rejoined
Oh,
late.
yes, you did.
About quick update on the standards track. So we're continue to answer questions that have been posted in issues. So please open issues. We have merged a few PRs that already like clarify, update. There are going to be a few more coming in the next week or so, with based on the issues that have been raised so far to make it clear. So that's one. And of course we have a standards meeting tomorrow. So please attend. We're going to continue to go through the issues and clarify things. That's one. Two is the PGB has a task force to actually define a standard around what is a standard. What are the different phases of a standard for EA community projects, because that doesn't exist yet. So we have a dedicated meeting to basically finalize the requirements and finalize the process in early May. So hopefully sometime in May, there will be an update from the PGB around those rules. So this is going to be excitingly boring or boringly exciting. I don't know which way around I should say it, but it will help move the standard that we have, this draft of it, forward into a well-defined state with a well-defined process to move it then eventually into a final project standard, and then moving it on to OASIS.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And all right, with that, I will formally wrap up our April General Assembly. On next week's baseline show, we'll have Red Hat joining with Provide to demonstrate how to effectively synchronize Red Hat business processes with other systems like SAP. The following show after that will be our Amster-based live stream. The one after that, April 27th, will probably be a retro, and hopefully we'll have an influx of new members joining that session and have an open office hours with those that are connected in Amsterdam. And then let me know if in the future anyone here or listening has suggestions for future guest speakers, and we'll be happy to slot them in. And we will see you all in our next General Assembly in May or on next week's baseline show. Thank you so much, everybody.
Right.
Cheers.